Good evening. My name is Bryne. We live in a society with one overriding consensus political objective, economic growth, which I define as an increase in our ability to alter our environment to suit our needs and our tastes. We pursue this objective using both tools and energy. Tools direct energy to its greatest effect, but it is energy that does the work. Without energy, tools are useless. And we experienced that, of course, in the ice storm of 1999 in eastern Ontario and Quebec. And, of course, again, in 2003, when 50 million people in north-central North America were without electricity. So, and, of course, humans cannot live without food, which is simply energy fit for human consumption. Accordingly, there is probably no more important price in our society than the price of energy. As in the case of all other commodities, the market price of energy reflects its scarcity. Abundant energy relative to our requirements means low prices. That's good for economic growth. After World War II, low energy prices supported strong, sustained economic growth in the West. To paraphrase John F. Kennedy, the economic growth of that era was a rising tide that lifts all boats. However, when energy becomes scarce and prices spike, it has a profoundly negative impact. Indeed, spiking energy prices have changed the fundamental structure of our economy and society in the last 40 years. When energy prices spiked in 1973 and then again in 1979-80, productivity growth in the industrialized West fell off a cliff. Stagflation, combined high inflation and high unemployment, became the norm. Manufacturing jobs disappeared by the hundreds of thousands. Middle-class status became elusive, especially for the less educated. Two-income families became commonplace, and economic growth shifted to Asia, a low-cost energy regime based on coal, the lowest-priced fossil fuel. Spiking energy and food prices also fundamentally altered economic policy in the West. Monetary policy became focused on controlling domestic wage growth, precipitating a deep recession in 1980-82. To restore productivity growth, deregulation, free trade, and globalization of the economy were embraced. Taxes on investment and dividend income were cut. Sales and payroll taxes falling disproportionately on the poor were raised. As a result, then, of global market forces and these policy changes, the rich grew profoundly richer, and their fortunes were essentially de-linked from their neighbors in the same country and city. Economic growth was no longer a rising tide that raised all boats. Household debt grew steadily. In 2008-2009, spiking energy prices pricked the subprime mortgage bubble and precipitated the near meltdown of the global economy. We live still with high unemployment, very high levels of household and government debt, and an addiction to cheap money flooding stock markets. As might be expected then, high-priced energy is particularly a disaster for the poor. As with the nation's real GDP, a household's real income is simply a measure of its members' command over their environment. To be poor is quite literally to be powerless. And increasingly, the poor are at the mercy of global market forces. Oil prices are determined in global energy markets, not local ones. Geopolitical instability, especially in the area of the Persian Gulf, regularly sends shock waves through the global economy on the international transmission mechanism of spiking oil prices. And thanks to the bonanza of shale gas, North America could soon join the global market in natural gas as an exporter of liquefied natural gas. Accordingly, natural gas prices could soon become a similar transmission system of global instability. When the price of energy, well, the price of energy is a cost to some, it is at the same time an income to others. In an energy-rich nation such as Canada, this matters. Political interference with the price of energy necessarily involves interfering with the regional distribution of income. Regions with abundant energy resources clearly gain from high energy prices. In Canada's federation, this causes profound problems for national economic and fiscal policy. Resource rents, mostly under the control of the provinces, are not equalized across the country. Some provinces, such as in Quebec, rich in hydroelectric energy, choose to keep their electricity prices below market value for resident customers. Others, such as Alberta and Saskatchewan, rich in fossil energy, are able to fund generous public services, even while keeping taxes low. These policies distort the national economy and federal-provincial fiscal relations, but our federal government is largely powerless. Politics shows up as well in the underpricing of fossil energy. Fossil fuels provide over 80% of the world's primary energy, and these fuels are responsible for over 80% of the emissions of carbon dioxide, a primary contributor to man-made global warming and climate change. Given current technologies, fossil fuels are overused because they're underpriced. In most places, their market prices do not include the cost of their degrading impact on the local air, water, and soil quality, or their global impact on the warming of the planet and climate change. Indeed, their use is even subsidized by many governments around the world to the tune of about $500 billion annually. What is the right price of energy? It is one that reflects its full social costs as well as, obviously, its full social benefits. And if one wishes a society in which the poor are as empowered as the rich, it is also a very low and stable price. Given our current technologies, that may seem implausible, but it is far from impossible. My vision of our energy future is one in which all households have at their fingertips, and virtually free, all the environmentally benign energy they need to fulfill their basic needs while freeing their imaginations and intellects to soar. Thank you.